Well, hello there. What's going on? My name is Jeff Bakalar. I'm joined by Lucy James Games and Tamor Hussein. How's everyone doing?
Good, good. Yeah, we're doing well. How are you?
I'm
I don't know why I said
fabulous.
that in such a weird way.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Lucy got real low, but maybe that's the tone. Maybe that's what we got to get down to
Maybe,
with
you know?
God of War Ragnarok impressions. The three of us have been playing this game. That's what we're here to talk about. We can only talk about a real thin slice of the first.
Still
I don't
pretty.
know.
5 hours is a pretty. I don't know. That's a lot. You know,
I
five
it
hours.
didn't it hadn't I played up to the spot where they were basically like, hey, after this don't talk. I don't know if it took me
Me
Mm.
5 hours, maybe like 3.5 or so.
I
Oh,
did a
look at
little
me.
bit
I'm
of
a
one.
big gamer. It took me
I'm just
three
a
and a half
gamer.
hours.
I'm just a
Gamer,
gamer.
man. No,
You
I did a
know?
little bit of wandering, so it took me a little bit. I think it took me about
Ah.
the 5 hours. Yay.
So, I'm excited personally because the three of us have not talked about it. I'm sure you two talked about
The
the
three
game
of us
already
have
because
never
you.
talked in real life.
Yeah.
No, this is the first time. I'm a little nervous about this new social interaction here, but I have not heard what the two of you think about this game. I've been really excited to hear about it. So, start things off, Tam, Lucy. Like, what do you think about the newest God of War, the God of War that's going to close the Nordic like mythology line, right? Like, this
Mm.
is it. It's just a 1-2 punch. What do you guys think?
Who could have foreseen that God of War, a series built on the shoulders of a character defined by his campaign to ruthlessly murder the pantheon of Greek gods, would be the same series to deliver a thoughtful exploration of fatherhood? But that is exactly what Sony Santa Monica's 2018 reboot of the franchise did, and it's just one facet of a game that's exemplary in so many ways, from its cinematic presentation, jaw-dropping scale, and stirring orchestral soundtrack to its intense combat, fulfilling exploration, and robust role-playing systems. God of War revived the dormant series and made it the gold standard for cinematic storytelling in games.
You just
Just,
reading a
And
did you?
review from two
Are you
years ago?
just
What's
reading?
happening?
Are you reading your preview? Or are you? Is that you? Just that's just how your brain works. That you can come up with something like that.
No, there's no way.
uh,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I am reading my preview. Yeah.
I was like, I QA'd that shit. I was like, wait a minute.
Get out of here. Oh,
No.
come
Damn
on.
Do we need to
If
explain
you
to
would
your
like
teleprompter?
to,
Do we need
if
to
you,
explain to your teleprompter?
I'm
that was
like,
pretty
I'm
good.
like, I'm thinking this whole time, I'm like, oh, Tam and Lucy, it's very eloquent people. I love hearing them speak. And I'm just like, motherfucker, Tam, what is this? What happens in your brain? This is you all the time? Oh my God.
That's my morning brain. But yeah, you can read the rest of my preview on gamespot.com. But the long and short of it is, I really like where it begins. Like, it's a really interesting, really kind of thoughtful introduction to the game, because it needs to do a lot of work. Specifically, it needs to kind of, at the same time as catching people up or reminding them what went down, they need to show where these characters are in their lives now. And I feel like the first 5 hours are kind of this masterclass in character exploration that I really, really appreciated experiencing and kind of unpacking. There's a lot of different dynamics on display now between Atreus and Kratos, and it could have done that classic video game thing where it like resets everything and it does more of the same, and like there's no growth shown in these characters, but it doesn't do that. Instead, it pushes forward, and we see Kratos as the version of Kratos that we got to at the end of the original God of War, and some time later he's gone through his own like journey off screen that we haven't seen, emotional kind of evolution, and similar for Atreus. And now we get this kind of version of these two characters that are familiar but very different. It's like seeing a couple of friends like many years later and being like, oh, I remember you used to be like this and now you're like this. So like from the character and story standpoint, I was like immediately compelled by the first few hours of that game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like Kratos has definitely grown back a little bit of his hard outer shell. But of course,
Bristling.
when you're that kind of zaddy, you just It's what you're made up of. It makes sense, you know. Lucy, what have you thought with your hours in so far?
So I'm in the same boat. I really I I'm kicking myself for not replaying 2018's God of War now, because
Mm.
um I think that would have been such a really great way to experience the journey. But you know, I did watch a recap. But I did
Yeah.
watch a recap. Not the same, but you don't kind of but regardless of if you have it fresh in your mind or not, the opening of Ragnarok is so emotional, but B does a really great job of, it doesn't do the thing where it resets everyone to the point that you don't like you don't know them anymore. Like, it doesn't have that
Mm.
feeling. Like, you feel like you're picking right where you left off, and there are some noticeable and subtle changes. Like, we talked about Atreus getting older, and like, I went back and watched some 2018 footage because we did a feature about it, and I was like, oh my god, he was that small, huh? He was
Mm.
really small,
He's a
and
little guy.
his voice was so different, and he was so much weaker and everything. And now in this game, he's like leading them in a way, like they're on the hunt for some answers, and obviously we're going to keep this spoiler free and everything, but like, he's on the hunt for some answers, and Kratos is being dragged behind him and kind of, you know, wrestling with the wanting to be a protective father, and you know, but also wanting to let his son, who we now discover has some, you know, like, some he's a part of some giant's prophecy, I guess. And
I see what you
he
did
wants to
there.
kind of, I see what I mean. He wants to help him kind of find the answers there, and it's a really really interesting relationship that is still evolving. Like, Atreus is clapping back, and it's you know, Kratos is kind of letting him get away with some of it, maybe not letting him get
Mm.
away with all of it. And then you've got Mimir, who's in the mix from the very beginning, who is acting as this sort of mediator. And so, in terms of, from a character point of view, I'm already in love with everyone. There's obviously going to be new characters who we'll end up seeing, and who we might have seen but aren't necessarily going to talk about right now, who are thrown into the mix. So from a character standpoint, I think it starts off really really strong. I also think from a gameplay, it doesn't fall into the trap where, you know, at the end of Arkham Asylum, you're all kitted up, and then you start Arkham City, and, you know, for gameplay reasons, they have to strip you away of everything, right? You go into Ragnarok still feeling very much like the God of War. Yes, you don't have all your abilities that you had, like, at the end of the first one, but you still have enough to make it feel powerful. The combat feels crunchy, and you are still delivering those combos. You are still setting draugrs on fire, you're freezing guys, you're doing the whole thing, and you've got your rage. But now you have it where you and Atreus are working together a lot more. So there's a really nice bit that I don't know, like, even though it was just the end of a fight, it felt really impactful for me, because it kind of mixed up the emotional stuff too, where Kratos grabbed this big lizard guy, and it's in one of the trailers. You see him grab it and like expose the neck, and then Atreus comes in and like delivers the killing blow, and you do it together. And like, compared to the first instances in the original God of War, like when you shoot the boar or you shoot the deer for the first time, and Atreus doesn't really want to do that, and seeing how he is now, you know, because they've been training throughout Fimbulwinter together, it's really great. You see that growth.
Mm.
And then I guess I would love to talk about like the map and stuff and everything, but Jeff, we'll talk about, how do you feel about it?
You know, I think that there's certain games that are just on that sort of level where you kind of almost overlook like what you're seeing, right? Like I sat like 3 feet away from my TV, and I was like, okay, this is one of those PS5 like AAAs. I want to really soak it all in. I had my wife like sit with me and watch it, and
My wife.
sort of like, and she was sort of like, it was funny. She was like, "Wait, this is what games are now?" And I was like, "Yeah." What was the last one you watched with me? Was it like BioShock Infinite or something like that? I can't remember. It's been a while first. Yeah, so
That's
that was
almost
fun.
10 years ago.
I know. There's been stuff
Wow.
in between.
The lack of interest in Jeff's hobbies from Stacy here. Incredible.
No, it was
just
no,
like
I think
10 years later. You still doing that video game shit over there?
What are you yelling about in your office all day long? What is that? What are you doing there?
Hey, I've seen Dylan play Rocket League, man. He's
Yeah.
going pro. He's going pro.
I think she saw like 12 minutes and that fucked her up for like a decade.
Oh, for
So
God's
she's like,
sake.
I'm out for the night. I'll come back next year. No, so seeing that reaction was like really wild. This game looks absolutely unbelievable. I think it's very difficult to kind of like, keep, I think the 2018 one, it's a thing that kind of doesn't stop. The momentum in that game is almost overwhelming, and I think this one is starting off much more paced and much more sort of like a gradual build. And you can tell even where we're at, where we finished, roughly the first 4 to 5 hours of it, that it is really sort of like depositing momentum and kind of like banking it and getting ready to start to probably blow up thereafter. Yeah. I mean, everything about it, I really kind of dig. I from a personal standpoint, the father-son thing in 2018 really hit home in a way that I was just like, I mean, I can't relate to killing wild animals in the snow, but the father-son thing was like a super relatable thing about that. And
Yeah.
I don't
Is
think
that still hitting hard for you now that, there's been the 4 years and Dylan has grown up the 4 years, and that's pretty much, it seems to be what the break is in between 1 and 2, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously
I don't think
Dylan is now out in the wild shooting bows and arrows and
right.
stuff.
And
Dylan's
he's an expert
a master marksman.
Yeah. He comes home every day with his kill, trying to impress me, and just like
His camper of the day. Award.
Yeah, look, Dad.
You know why I got this? I slayed a giant lizard demon, Dad.
I think that stuff is still. Look, I don't think it's as super impactful as the first go around. I think we know about this relationship again and again. Not to take anything away from like the evolution of what their dynamic is like. I think, like you said, it is picking things up, assuming a lot about that 2018, and the game does come with a sort of like previously on video that's worth watching, and you kind of get caught up to speed about where you're at. Very infrequently will I recommend people play the first one to play this one, but I feel like this is maybe one of those games where you're better off getting your way through 2018 before you pop into Ragnarok. You were sort of alluding to it a little bit, Lucy, like the way this game sort of feels. I think 4 years in between is just the length of time where I would not go back and play the first one again. I feel like that amount of time, it's just I started it on PC just because I wanted to see what it looked like on PC, and it was like, oh yeah, I got what I needed out of that fidelity dopamine hit, but I didn't progress that much into it, and a part of me kind of wishes I did, because there's something about the way this game is controlling that's kind of maybe making me sort of stumble out of the gate with just feeling good and confident about it. I don't know if it's a combination of like locking onto enemies or juggling. I feel like I'm getting kind of lit up from behind in a way that maybe I just got better at with 2018. You do have this sort of
we were talking about this because we mistakenly said, and like we have issued the correction. We're sorry. GameSpot regrets the error.
We have to do it properly. You have to do it.
Yes, let me hear it.
A notes app apology.
Big sigh. Big sigh. What do you regret?
Guys,
what do you regret?
Everything.
Yeah.
No, so we were talking. We shot our preview yesterday, and I was like, did they take quick turnout? Because it's not there. It used to be down on the D-pad, right? And now it's. I don't remember getting a pop-up to tell you that it's there. Maybe I missed it in the middle of everything, but it's L1 and down now, and I was getting fucked up by people just coming behind me all the time, and I was like, why did they remove QuickTime? And then it turns out it was user error. GameSpot regrets the error. And so now I'm kind of like, because I was feeling the same way, and we were all talking about how enemies seem to hit harder. People are a little, it's, things can go awry more easily in the middle of fights. And maybe now that's kind of, now that we know where Quickstep is, I guess maybe that could be.
I do also think that there is a little more aggression on the enemy's part. Like it doesn't feel, it feels like there's more enemies that are like coming at you constantly. It's more aggressive as a whole. So the quick turn definitely will help. But I also found myself like, even with my, like I've got a fighting game and action game background. So like I'm very, very aware of my surroundings. I'm good at these games. But even still, I'd be like in the middle of a combo, like a juggle combo or something, and out of nowhere just get hit from behind and be like, oh, I did not see that. And it's because there
Sure.
is an indicator there that you kind of will tell you, oh, it's yellow, someone's kind of approaching or got you in their sight, and now it's red, something's coming. But there's so much going on in any given moment that it's very easy to miss that. And because of the camera angle where you're like tight on Kratos, it can be tricky to kind of maintain that awareness. And to a degree, like the immersion is so good in this game. You want to be immersed in it. You don't really want to be looking for like dials and indicators and that kind of stuff. You want to be focused on it. So it can become quite easy to lose track of that stuff. But the enemies do feel like they are a little more ruthless, and they pack a bit harder of a punch. And I think that makes a lot of sense, because narratively, like, we can't have just loads of Dragas being pushovers again, especially this far into the journey, because Kratos and Atreus would just decimate them.
Yeah.
There needs to be a kind of like, there needs to be like an escalation in both, in order to show that Atreus as a character is more capable, which he definitely is. He's one of the things that I like is really subtle, is like he feels like he's like, I'm jumping on this enemy and I'm gonna immobilize them, is way more frequent. It feels like he's got the confidence in battle now to just get involved. And it also is manifested in the way they talk to you during battle. So you have Mimir on your waist, literally watching your ass, and you have Atreus alongside you, and while he's fighting, they do this thing where they will call out and be like, hey, behind you, left. And it's like, and he does that while he's also fighting an enemy, so it's like he's got a good battle sense now, which is really cool. And it kind of makes up for that element of like someone's coming from behind. Usually if someone's coming from behind, as well as the indicator, Atreus or Mimir will say like, hey, there's someone here, or brother behind you, be careful, which I really, really like.
I always wonder, like,
in Twitch chat, I just wanted to address this, because they say difficulty in combat pacing was my biggest issue with God of War 18. Doubling down on that does not appeal to me. So just a brief sidebar to talk about like accessibility issues here can help, because they put in a new one where if you're really struggling with a side boss, you can checkpoint in the middle of the boss encounter now. So you just basically set it in the accessibility menu, and so if you're really struggling with a boss, you can set it to checkpoint for you at these key kind of like turning of the tide moments. And there was one boss that I did that for, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool, that's really helpful to me. I don't want to be like, and it's not affecting my trophy progress or anything like that. It's, it is a tool to help you out there. And I was like, honestly, that's great, because I don't want to see myself get frustrated at this game if I keep getting pummeled by the fucking Drauga that comes out of the ground. What's it called? Like the Hater or something?
Oh yeah. I forgot what
that guy.
It's weird, right? Like, I've noticed some of the large front-loaded boss fights I've been able to clear in one go, and then like
feels
some
like
mid-level,
there's a lot of them up front.
Yeah, and then like a mid-level
great.
guy, brings me down to like 1 HP. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's because also like the enemies are designed in a way to encourage you to use your tool set more, like more with more variety. Like you can definitely get by with the Leviathan axe mostly, but the design of the enemies means like it wants you to switch to the blades, and it wants you to switch to the fists. It's similar in the old game, the previous game, where it did have like specific stuff, but now it's like the enemy types are, because those little lads, the annoying ones are,
the lizards.
You got you have to use the blades of chaos because they're so quickly.
Totally.
And there's a saddest. I just use Atreus. I just like run away
and
shoot
arrows.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you can. Out of the gate, they do let you sort of like direct his arrows. I do like you said, Tam, encouragement to use of the weapon diversity, and you've got the hot, cold, freeze, fire buffs and stuff that are super kind of logical, right? Like I think in a lot of games that really handcuffs me, where I'm just like, okay, what do I need? Like why? What's the rock paper scissors formula for this? but all that stuff's laid out pretty intelligently out of the gate. And I really like the menu system too. I know it's been a while. It's mostly similar to that 2018 one, but I think it onboards you in a real satisfying way. And once you kind of whip through it once, you are for the most part good to go on your own. And I think a lot of these games can fall over themselves trying to dump stats and upgrades and armor, and that stuff is there, and you can spend time kitting out your character, but I think there's enough there to kind of like hold your hand and even just do it automatically for you, that I think
I was gonna say, I think there is auto equip just to
yep
because that's the part I don't particularly enjoy so much. Like,
sure,
I get narratively it's there with Brock and Sindri and everything, but like I'm not. It was never my favorite part of the first game, but it is cool to kind of see and unlock and upgrade new stuff, and actually see the armor on. But for me, it's kind of a thing where I'm like, this isn't part of the loop I have in my head, right? I'm not consciously making the decision to go to them every time and change stuff up. But no, it's like it plays really well. Like in terms of traversal, it feels, it kind of harkens back to kind of older God of War in a way, because now you've got the Blades of Chaos, you can swing around places. And I find, the loop on completing puzzles, especially the traversal puzzles, when Atreus, he'll go off and find higher ground and point stuff out to you, and you're there and making your way across and unlocking things is really satisfying. There was only one puzzle that I really kind of struggled on, and I kept restarting because I was like, maybe if I keep restarting, Atreus or Mimir will tell me where I need to go. And eventually, actually, they did do that. But I'm finding them really satisfying. It's scratching the itch of, when 2013 Tomb Raider came out, and I was like, this game, I really like it, but the highlight for me are the tombs, and I wish there were more of them. These are like so many of those little tomb type things, but they're not tombs, they're just the puzzle encounters, I guess. And that's really scratching that itch, and it really breaks up the combat and the exploration in a way that's really satisfying to me. Especially as well when you're in the little paddle boat and you can basically just go, oh, what's over there? Let's have a look. And it really encourages that sense of exploration.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, I don't want to spoil it, although we can talk about it. There's a lot of interesting like side stuff to do in the game immediately. Like
right away.
And they're not just tied to Kratos, they're tied to other characters.
Characters,
they can, like, someone else will be like, hey, can you do this for me? And there's usually a good story that's part of that kind of request. It doesn't feel like there's anything in here just to kill time, It's not like they went, we need side quests, let's make a side quest where we send Kratos and Atreus to grab this thing. It's like, hey, we've got an opportunity to tell a cool or make some sort of tell a cool story or make some sort of progress in developing this character, and we can do it via this side quest. Let's do that. And there's loads of those already in the first hours, which is really cool.
I love hearing the stories. I love hearing the stories.
There's just a lot of
I'm
weight to
interested
everything,
I'm interested in North because I'm from Newcastle. I'm interested in Norse mythology. I'm interested in Norse mythology anyway, but the voice actor for Mimir is so good. He tells these stories, and it feels like he's spinning you a yarn, and you're just kind of going along for the ride with him. But no, I'm really enjoying it. It's great.
Yeah, I think like out of the gate, like the first vibe I'm also getting is sort of like, look, this is very much the sequel, right? Like this is very much the same kind of like set of tools here that we're going to be working with, and similar kind of like ideas. I already found like one of those like sort of codec trunks that you have to like make the characters appear on. That brought me right back to 2018. Like there seems like a lot of the assets that we saw and a lot of the mechanics that we saw are kind of like finding their way in right away again. And I think with a game like this, and it also being the sort of conclusion to this story arc, it's like, all right, let's remember, like, this is the sequel to that thing, very much so. And I think that comes through in a big way in just the first couple hours.
I'm actually finding myself going through the journal a lot more than I did.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
Like just reading that stuff for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you both have been surprised by? Anything that you're sort of like, oh, this is how they're going to do that this time around? I think, aside from like the quick turn thing, I do think like some of the control stuff, I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. I just think that to me has so far been the biggest readjustment period. Maybe it's just, again, because I have not played that one in a while. Is there anything that's like standing out at you that's like remarkably different?
Not really. I
We
think like
harmonized there.
we did a little bit, yeah. Nothing like that has come up as a red flag for me. Like I think
Yeah,
like
totally.
the major like addition is like verticality, which is, as Lucy
Mm.
mentioned, like the enabled by having the blades of chaos from the
Mm.
outset. You're doing a lot more of like using that blade to swing across locations or up to different points, height points, and that kind of stuff, which is something that was unexpected, but it does have a knock-on effect on pretty much everything in terms of like puzzle solving, and also like hit these 3 bells to unlock the the chest, that kind of stuff. It does enhance that, but nothing. Yeah, it feels very familiar. I mean, there are surprising things in the game, but those are beyond where where we can
Yeah,
talk
we
about.
don't want to
So
get
I'm
the
being
wrath of
very
Sony.
careful. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't need
Yeah.
Sony on my ass. So but nothing immediately that is, what do you call it, like
No.
red flags or anything like that.
No red flags really, now that we've resolved the quick turn issue. The one
It's
thing I would
behind
say
us
is
now, yeah.
it's fucking hell.
Literally.
The one thing I would say is that, like, we have this intimate relationship with Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir and everyone, but like when you meet new people, it's again, the performances are really, really good, and I think that's all handled really well. And it's to the point where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see where this goes. And I think
Totally.
if it can maintain that momentum, I think we're in for a really great time. Because at the start of it, it's like, yes, it feels familiar. Yes, it's God of War, but that's great. And
Without a doubt,
they're not
performances.
fucking it up.
I mean, to me, that honestly is like the standout thing. Like the performances are so strong. I very few games can really touch that. I think that stuff for me is what really like rises to the absolute top, outside of the fidelity and what this game looks like. Are we allowed to talk about like the performance options and stuff like that? I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've
that.
been asked, how's it on PS5? Does it feel like a generational bump or a smoother PS4 game? It's from Monarch of Light.
I think it does feel like that step up from 2018 if you played it on like Pro, PS4 Pro. I think for me the dual sense and the real specific dialing in of all the haptic stuff is like super satisfying. I haven't felt that way. I think Deathloop actually did a really good job with that too. Yeah. But
it feels shitty to mention it in this regard because Gotham Knights has been getting shat on from all things. But like one of the things I really noticed going from that to God of War was the use of haptics and making like every hit in God of War, I feel it. When stuff's happening in the environment, like you feel it happen, and it helps with that weight behind the punches and the hits, like we were talking about. And then you go to a game where they're not utilizing that, and it's like, oh, yeah.
It adds a lot. Like they're little things, but they are super impactful. They add a lot for sure. Tons of accessibility options in this game. Like you can really dial it in, like down to the colorblind subtitles and just it's
screen
really,
reader.
I'd love to see it for sure. But yeah, I guess we can kind of like look through chat if there's any other questions, but I'm definitely enjoying this. It's as I, not to knock on recent games, but like there's certain games I've started where I'm just like, I need to just bounce off this as soon as possible. Yeah. And now there's this one here where it's like very much looking forward to the end of the day where I can pop back on and start making some serious progress in this for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Same.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll probably just about do it. Any last thoughts, you two, or what do you what do you think?
I am excited to I'm just excited to play more at this point. This
It's
is,
just
I
in.
know we're ruminating on the first 5 hours a
Hold on.
lot, and I just hope it keeps up
I'm
that
I'm thinking about
Momentum.
momentum.
whether. Yeah, we're thinking about whether I should say this or not. The first five
Wait,
hours,
let's
I
all
think I
look in the
can.
direction Tam is because he's sort of like.
Oh,
Well, Tam, where are you looking at? What do you got? What are you seeing over there? What are you seeing over there?
I'm gonna say it. This is an
Say it.
exclusive.
Uh
oh.
oh.
In the first 5 hours of the game,
Mm.
Kratos does not say boy.
Oh, how could you
Yeah.
do that, dude? How could you
Not
do that?
once.
But I've counted his grunts.
Yeah, there's
Oh.
no boy in the first 5 hours of God of War
Mm.
Ragnarok.
There
I
is some
think.
There's
sauce, though. There
Do you
is some
think at one point
spice.
he's gonna go teen?
he's gonna
Like
go.
pre
You are no
preteen,
longer boy. You are a man.
prepubescent.
You are no longer a boy. You are tween.
Yeah.
I love how like in 2018 he definitely throws some sass at shopkeepers and stuff like that. Like a little of that's here too, and especially if you read some of the journal entries because they're sort of written obviously in his voice and he, like some of them are just like that would not have ended well for either of us. Like stuff like that. Where you're just like, okay, you're having a little bit of fun, aren't you, Kratos?
Yeah.
With your
I
like
mean,
you
he
know
is. There
He has
48,000 year of
he has
life. Like
100% taken up journaling. Like it is,
yeah,
and he's
Oh
taken
yeah,
to it.
he's
He's
taken up
taken to it.
mindfulness
Yeah.
exercises.
Yeah.
yeah.
It is. Yeah, that is. I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to play more.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
Jan asks, is he a buff boy now?
I mean, he's definitely growing. You know, I don't want to. He's fit. He's fit as hell. He's not a buff boy
teen.
though.
He's got a swimmer's physique.
Yes. Oh, very well put. He's definitely
Mm.
like doing the pommel horse before he's weightlifting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's good at climbing now, and he likes to
He is
climb.
he's a
really good at
climber.
climbing.
He's a good
he's a
climber.
climber.
Like in he used to like hang out on Kratos's back, right? Is that?
He did.
Yeah.
He
Now
used to
did.
carry him up.
Yeah. So
now
he's just like, I can do this, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he zips up there ahead of you. Like he goes ahead of you. And he's like, goodbye.
Some would say
you-
he even teleports.
some would say because
Some would say.
maybe you left
That's
where he
literally
was.
what he's
and
doing.
then all of a sudden he's shooting arrows where you want him to. It's the only thing that like still drives me a little. It's a little crazy. Like you'll get to an area and this is like blocked off by like something insignificant, like a little wagon or something. And previously, like Kratos literally like chopped a boulder in half,
Picks up a
mountain in
train.
half,
Yeah.
and he's just like, "Fuck! I can't get on the other side of that fence. I can break apart a mountain, but I can't find a way to just." Crawl through that little space. It's all good, Kratos. We know you're getting old. Your back's hurting. He feels old, right? He feels like he's getting a little old. It
Yeah.
feels like he's he's seen some shit.
He has. He's exhausted with the world.
I just want to
Honestly, same.
clarify. I did not say that he's got a new teleportation ability. I'm saying that in terms of game design, he is just like moving around because
He's
that's how
Nightcrawler. It's
it
awesome.
works. They're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, he's got a new teleport ability. Wow.
Oh, sick! Wow. Okay, print it.
Which Aesir ability is that? Everyone just teleporting around.
Yeah, he's got a little pocket Bifrost. It's just quietly moving around.
So I guess that's gonna wrap it up. We're digging our time so far with Ragnarok. Tam, Lucy, thank you so very much for joining us in this little impressions video. We'll have much more as the weeks move on and we get closer to release with this one. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Boy.